coming down.
It's a countdown. I'm gonna go.
Yeah, whatever.
And the final
Got our new clock. That's why we got our new clock.
Yeah.
So legit.
Better transitions.
Jake's got
you
his.
asked for it.
Right.
We bring it.
Jake's got his own mic. We got all kinds of.
Dude, look at that.
You listen to the feedback.
Yeah, only right
That's pretty
ear.
awesome.
You're only gonna hear him in your right ear because I got the fucking adapter there. But no, I'll fix it in post. How's it, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Cultured the Podcast. Here with Roman, our mystery man behind the cameras.
Everybody knows my name.
Mr. Flight One Media himself.
Yes.
Fucking get out there, guys. Get out there and
Yes.
subscribe and
Talented.
or follow
Very
him.
talented, though.
Sick, very sick. So, our producer hasn't been working on his.
Not at all. I'm working on my own stuff, though.
What's going on in your life? Let's talk about that. So yeah, some of the topics that we got are the NFC and AFC championship games that were pretty sick.
Very good.
They were legit.
Joe Rogan.
And we got Neil Young starting some shit. And he brought Joni Mitchell.
Joni Mitchell, yeah.
Brought Joni Mitchell.
Yeah.
You know what
Joni
I'm pissed
Mitchell
about?
Never lie.
Never lied. But you know what? They're both Canadian, eh? And they go fuck themselves, eh? Like,
Hey, why
Easy,
can't you
bro.
speak on it?
Easy,
bro, these guys, I was like, you guys, I was like, Neil Young became an American citizen like 2 years ago, and the only
Really?
reason he
That's
did
true?
was, yeah, to fuck with Donald Trump. That's the only reason
Yeah.
why. And I'm like,
So when he's had the song "Keep on Living in the Free World," is that
keep on rocking in the
"Keep
free
on
world.
Rocking in the Free
Yeah,
World"? And he was in Canada that whole time.
yeah, socialist
Not cool,
country.
bro. Not cool, bro.
It's not even a free world for you, bro. Like, what's going on? You know, that's that. It's kind of funny because it's what a lot of people that chime in about. I noticed this when Trump was in office too. It's like a lot of people that chime in about Trump and how they hated Trump and how they hated were a lot of like Europeans. You know, a lot of people that weren't from the United States. Not saying that everyone from the United States was cool with it and like, oh yeah, we love Trump, but it was just kind of like, how much is your, like, consider the source, how much does your opinion really matter to an American citizen?
I mean, I don't know. I can't say that I've seen it that way. Where I know there were a lot of people outside of the U.S. who were critical of him, but would I say like it was the majority? No, I wouldn't say that.
No, I'm just saying this is something I noticed.
A lot of people did,
'Cause
but a
most
lot
of
of people
were
in
actors.
the U.S. Correct.
Yeah,
Correct. True.
the ones with the loudest
Yeah.
voices were all like a lot
Yeah.
of actors, a lot of people that were, but yeah, a lot of the most like Russell Brand was real critical of him, and like
Trump.
Yeah, of Trump, and he was like very much pushing on like go vote. You know, you can't let somebody like this, you know, make the office. It's ridiculous. He's making a mockery of your democracy and all this stuff. And now he's kind of like changed his tune.
Well, I mean, not to say I follow Russell Brand or.
So there's something. You know, we should have a segment like, what sound do you name that sound?
Name that sound. Name that sound.
Nobody's gonna guess. Piece of plywood slammed out of Trump.
This is gonna be a noisy pod. Like, thank God I got the mics. This is gonna be the
got
noisiest
the
podcast.
birds,
They're
we
doing
got-
construction over there. Crow is dying over here.
Plywood.
Sirens and aircrafts. Apparently, we're in the flight path of
Every airport. in
yeah,
Southern
every airport in
California.
Southern California. But I'm sorry, you were saying?
No, Russell Brand, I can respect that. I can't say I follow him or know even what he was talking about.
Mhm.
Not that I even heard that his critique of Trump, but I do know he's pretty critical of Joe Biden, which to me is pretty cool. I
Recently,
mean, that's
recently,
pretty.
yeah.
That's something I respect because to be critical of somebody like Donald Trump and then not be critical of somebody like Joe Biden, you know, just because I lean Democrat,
Right.
you know, that's kind of half-assed. It's not fair.
It's biased.
You're just being kind of a hypocrite.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're being critical of both for very similar reasons, I mean, that's pretty respectable.
Well, one thing that he's done recently is like on his, I don't know if you've ever seen his podcast, but his podcast he does legit journalism. You know what I mean? And then he just kind of like puts his he
Like, what do you mean by legit journalism?
is that he'll see an article and then he'll kind of like not so much fact check it,
Like
but he'll
break it down?
He'll break it down and he'll start looking into some of the stuff they're talking about.
That's pretty rad.
And then he'll research kind of like the science and the statistics behind it and everything, and kind of see if it's like he tries to weed through the bias in the article, right? Which is journalism. It's what it should be, you know. And then he gives the information, and then he might like put his thoughts in, like how he feels about what they're saying in the article.
Yeah.
But it's not like they're wrong or they're this, you know. It's kind of like pointing out the hypocrisy in some of the things they're saying, and they're like, well, how do you guys feel about this? Like, to me, it makes me feel this way, but I don't know. Which is the beauty of this podcast, because he's in a podcast, so it's like I can say, this is my platform. I can say what I think and how I feel, but at the same time,
This is the data that I'm seeing. This is the
it's up to you guys. Yeah,
information.
it's up to you
Correct.
guys to
This
do
is what I think.
exactly.
But
Which is what journalists do.
And which they're supposed to do, right?
Supposed to be doing. Correct.
I think it's been skewed a little. And I have a journalistic background. That's why I got my degree in. I mean, communications with an emphasis in media studies. But because when I was getting my degree, it was like tracks, right? It was tracks, and it was like, all right, if you follow the journalist track, and you go this route, and you have to take these classes, but some of the classes weren't offered, at least at the time when I was graduating, and I wanted to get out as soon as I could. So the fastest route for me to get out was media studies. So, I mean, it was like 2 classes really that were the main difference. But
did you learn anything in there that makes you look at the way journalism is done today, like they're doing it wrong, or like I see why they do it the way they do it?
I wouldn't say they're doing it wrong, but yeah, I mean, there's things I would do differently. And in some instances, I mean, I'm sure there are great journalists out there, but like people, like the mainstream people, it's kind of tough to see what they're doing, especially now.
Yeah.
Like it does seem with the bias, and seems
clickbaity.
Clickbaity. Yes.
Yeah. I think that's what for me I started noticing is that a lot of the articles that started coming out, especially with like the newspaper going away, everything going to digital, a lot of it was like we need a headline that's going to grab their attention.
Yeah.
So they start putting out these like absurd headlines where you're just kind of like, what? So you'd click it and then you'd go and hopefully read the article, but 90% of the population doesn't read the article, and then they're sitting there like, did you hear about this? And
like,
I
mean, I had this conversation this weekend. It was like City of Long Beach recently put a headline, or I think it was Long Beach Post, that said highest hospitalization rates for kids in Long Beach. You know, we're at all-time high, rates are rising, and that was like the headline. And then if you looked at it, like it was like, oh well, a lot of people have gone in for other things, and they didn't actually go in with COVID
and test positive.
We just test everybody now, and the numbers of people having COVID are technically higher, but nobody, like majority of kids didn't go in.
They aren't being hospitalized because of it.
Yeah, they went in with a broken arm.
Yeah,
and they had.
Which is something that I think the CDC director came out and said that like a lot of these statistics are not necessarily people that are coming in with COVID or with.
Well, it is interesting seeing just the overall narrative, like slightly changing. Yeah. It's like, and they're all in unison, right?
Okay, I'm gonna piggyback off of our last podcast, and if you guys haven't seen the last podcast, go check it out. It's kind of talking about conspiracies and stuff. Do you think that there's any correlation with the changing of the narrative and the fact that we're midterm?
Oh, definitely. I mean, especially with the numbers the way they are for the Democrats, it's like something's got to give. Like they got to start making a change somehow.
I mean, and this is what, like, this leads us back to the whole Neil Young thing, where they talk about like misinformation. And so for those who don't know what's going on with Neil Young told Spotify, I want you to take my music off your platform if you're going to continue to have Joe Rogan on your platform. And for those who don't know, the Joe Rogan Spotify deal was probably one of the biggest deals that Spotify's made with any of their artists. So he's like their golden boy, and he's been producing for them. Not to say that that's the reason they should be catering to him, but they basically were like, cool, Neil, see you in Canada, eh? And took his stuff off. And then Joni Mitchell, tried to put her 1962 influence in there, and they're like, all right, cool. So we dropped both of their audio because it's what the artist wants. It's not what Spotify wants. It's like, this is what the artist is asking for, and we're going to stand behind our investment, which is Joe Rogan. But and the Joe Rogan came out recently and put out not so much an apology, but put out kind of like a video saying that he's going to try his hardest to be less biased in who he has on as the host of his
Which
platform.
is a little, weird, because he is pretty unbiased already, I think.
If you follow him, if
Yeah.
you know him, and I think
But even with his host, or his guests,
yeah,
he's, he's got Bernie Sanders on there. He's open to having other people. And
yeah, he has Bernie Sanders on there, but he had Bernie Sanders on there because he was a proponent for Bernie Sanders. He liked what Bernie was doing.
Gotcha.
He was actually advocating for Bernie. Had him on, and he wasn't impressed with what Bernie did.
Yeah.
Had Tulsi Gabbard on, very impressed with Tulsi Gabbard. She actually won him over.
Yeah.
That podcast is actually what won me over with her.
Tulsi.
Yeah,
Tulsi's just pretty sweet.
She's awesome.
Yeah.
She's fantastic. And again, this is coming from libertarian, conservative libertarian, right?
At this point, anybody's good. We got Trump and Joe Biden looking like our next two choices. So,
yeah, it is. The whole two-party system kind of just sucks. Where it's like, this is it. You have these two parties because there's a lot of good libertarian candidates that don't really get the notoriety because again, they don't have the funding. When it comes down to it, that's all it is. It's money wins elections. And money buys elections a lot of times as well. And if you guys don't buy into that narrative, I can understand why you don't. But to me,
come on, let's talk about it.
To me, that's where you're kind of like, you got your head in the sand, and personally, this is my personal opinion. I don't think this is, it's just, you can't see how narratives change. And like, I noticed it like probably when I was getting out of high school, how much narratives changed during just coincidentally, or how many tragedies happened coincidentally during an election year, coincidentally during a midterm, and it's like, let's see how the president handles it. It's like, the Democrats are trying to mess with the Republicans, to see if they can lower their approval rating and vice versa. The crazy thing about now is I feel like the Republicans aren't really messing with the Democrats to like get their approval rating down. I think Biden's just kind of doing it on his own.
He's imploding on his own.
Yeah, he's just kind of like saying like to be honest with you, the most interesting and the coolest thing I've seen Biden do is tell homeboy to call homeboy what do you call him? He called him like stupid son of a bitch.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, I saw that and I was like,
DC.
cool, Grandpa's being real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was like, that was the coolest thing for someone that,
Well, you got to think, Joe Biden's been a lifelong politician.
which is a problem in my opinion.
Correct,
Yeah.
definitely. Almost as, we'll say that's arguable. But I used to hate Trump because he was a lifelong businessman. He grew up like that, and a lot of those people are scummy.
Right.
And he is that, but between him and Joe Biden, it's a tough call. Who's worse?
It's a coin flip at this
Yeah,
point.
it's pretty bad. They're both pretty bad, and it's unfortunate for us because either way, it's just we're in a shitty situation. If we arguing for either candidate, I don't think it's. It's not beneficial to us in the long run.
Well, I think
The party system in general.
Yeah.
Correct,
You
yeah.
only have the two choices. You can't just have.
But
how they
granted,
that's what sucks.
even with that said, yes, the two-party system does suck, but the two people we have as choices for those parties are even.
Well, see,
worse.
this
Like,
is kind of my issue with how people view the two-party system. I shouldn't have done that. Is that they think that Joe Biden and Donald Trump are that party, and they're not. They're just they're just the spokesman. They're the Mickey Mouse of Disney, right?
There's a whole
Walt's behind it,
there's a
and there's a whole
whole-
board behind it that are making the moves and that are actually. Now, when it comes to in my opinion, when it comes to how those administrations, those two administrations have been handling things, in my opinion, the Trump administration was a lot more beneficial towards our country and made things better for our country financially, and in that forum.
Define that, because you're saying it's better financially, but
Well, not
I
even
mean,
not even financially. I think it's like
we're still
jobs.
huge debt.
That
Um,
okay, that's something that's forever gonna be because the
but
way
you're saying Donald Trump
centralized banking
was
works,
good for jobs.
he created jobs for Americans. He ended things that
Well,
were
technically you could say Joe Biden's creating jobs for America, but that's
Recreate.
he's
recreating. Yeah,
jobs.
I mean,
but even then,
because they were lost.
I
right?
wouldn't even make that.
But
I wouldn't make that argument for
so-
Joe Biden because he came into a pandemic, so it's
Right.
difficult to sit there and say like.
So he's saying I'm the the GDP is at all time high thanks to me, and it's like, all right, coming in through a pandemic, it's a little suspect
it's
to
difficult. Well,
use
he-
that as a because I mean technically if you looked at the numbers, yeah, you could probably make that argument
right.
that it grew higher than any other president, but
If you don't look into what
if,
it's actually, yeah.
if you looked at the big picture, he came in during a pandemic,
Right.
when shit was at an all-time low,
Right.
and then it's getting back online,
Right.
You know, and
You're turning the switch back on. You're
and
gonna
he's
have
like,
a little
oh,
bit like taking
thanks,
credit for
guys.
it. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So
You're
it's
welcome.
difficult to make that comparison. You can make a better comparison based off of the Obama years into the Trump years, you know. And the thing is that a lot of the trade negotiations and a lot of the agreements that we have with other countries under other leadership, and I'm not just shitting on Obama. And the Bushes did it, the Clintons did it. NAFTA was a big mistake because it takes a lot of jobs away from our country. Like name something that we produce other than the finest bourbon in the land.
Right.
You know, like
Corn.
there's very little. Yeah, corn. There's very little that we produce as a nation. You know, even Apple as far as tech and stuff like that, they're created here in the United States.
Creating the ideas.
They're creating the ideas here, and they're making
Concepts.
money off the ideas here. But all those jobs that actually put those things together and everything are all shipped off into different countries and making other countries rich. And now we have like, oh, China, everyone's scared of China. Well, yeah, we've been putting money in China's pocket for decades. You know.
Well, because of cheap labor. That's why we were doing it. And,
Well, yeah, and
so-
it's because of a lot of these.
But
these,
nobody wants to work for.
It's a lot of
cheap
these. It's a lot of
here.
these negotiations and a lot of these. Okay, then now you start getting into unions and other things that happen that were all implemented by the Democratic Party. You know, these are all things that were started off by people in the Democratic Party. So yeah, it was for the betterment of workers in our country and things like that. But it also there's a fine line between capitalism and social wellness.
Definitely.
You know, and there's
Yeah.
a balance, and and the thing is, at the time that all these things were coming into play, capitalism was flourishing and social wellness was at an all-time low. But now it's getting to the point where social wellness, you know, people aren't going back to work because clearly they're being subsidized by the government or other things, where it's like, and now we have jobs and things that aren't getting done. There's a reason you guys aren't getting your packages. There's a reason things aren't getting.
Oh, they're
there's a
still
reason.
coming though. They're still coming.
Yeah, to that train stop in in the middle
So-
of LA.
Like, I'm not even getting into that because it's like there's narratives on each end, and I think that was just
What, the train-
Like,
the train thing?
Have you gotten all your packages this holiday season?
Not on time. Not
But
on
you
time.
got them all. Like how
Actually,
delayed were they?
I don't really
Like-
know. I couldn't tell.
Like, did you miss any? Like, I mean,
A few.
I think that's like
A few.
a
But then
farce
there
to
was
me.
what
It's
do you
like-
think was the farce?
I mean, obviously there was
All the
stuff-
packages that were getting sold.
There's packages there, right? But
Oh,
like,
for
what's
sure.
the amount of that? Because I got all mine.
And how many actually get like shipped
Like-
out? Oh yeah, like it's a
like
drop
I
in the
don't
bucket.
know. Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
anybody who was like, "Dang man, I missed like 5 of my gifts."
Yeah.
this
No, I think
holiday,"
that's
you know?
also that's all supply chain that's going to like Walmart and a bunch of different places. and,
Definitely,
you know,
yeah.
it's
But
not-
like, to me, that I mean, it's like, oh dang, LA is going to shit, you know, and that's another narrative that I mean, so crime here is definitely getting out of hand.
In
but
L.A. or
in L.A., Long Beach,
California in general.
Yeah, correct. Yeah,
What's going on in San Francisco does it like compared to what's going on here?
Definitely, totally.
In New York too. Did you see Rappaport?
Oh yeah. The
Rappaport
Rite Aid.
like literally like when when a famous actor walks into a Walgreens or whatever and just literally sees a crime and is recording it the whole time and like video, and the guy's just walking. It's not even the guy that was like running like.
Was that actually him though? Like I
It was
seen the
Rappaport.
video.
Yeah, he's like.
Well, I
can't
know it was
believe
on
this."
his thing. Well, he does like
The
voiceovers.
voiceovers. Yeah, no, I think it was literally him.
I don't know. But I know he went in after like and
It'd be funny if it wasn't him. and he's just in
it was empty, and he was
That
like
video of
my.
that video of him and that cat is still one of the videos. The cat with the big old eyes and he's yelling to his mom.
Ah!
Still one of the funniest videos I've ever seen.
No, I like Rappaport. but
Yeah, no.
Big Dick Donald.
He's another one that was a basher on Donald while he was in the presidency, and now he's just kind of like
No, he still bashes.
he bashes him, but he's just kind of like
What? Like
he's like
I think
what the he's like
most-
disappointed
Most
in
sane people. Well, he's disappointed in who?
in the Biden administration.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
like
I
what the
think-
fuck
I
like
think that's a fair.
like you're making
reality, a
making
fair,
all my criticisms of Donald Trump look like I was out of my mind because of the fact that you're fucking up so bad.
I don't know about the criticism, but of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I think those still stand.
Yeah.
I think it's okay to be critical of Joe Biden and what he's currently doing, though. So, I mean, you can hold both.
One
points
thing
of
about
view.
rap. One thing about rap is that rap, or not even just rap. I think with most people during that time is that they talked shit about Donald Trump, and I don't think there was one Republican that was like, Donald Trump's a. Well, no. I'm not gonna say that. There's a lot of Republicans that are like, Donald Trump's the greatest ever. No,
Yeah.
The run of the mill Republican was probably like, yeah, Donald Trump's a piece of shit. We knew it coming in.
Well, so
I'd rather his administration
guess-
be in there.
I guess the perception is that is the minority. But like I say, when I go out and talk to people, and I'll have a beer with someone, like that's
It's like I don't like his tweets
generally
either. Like
correct.
Yeah, he's like, this is ridiculous. It's divisive. It's
most people
adding fuel
are
to-
pretty critical of Donald Trump, or like at least during the election, where like, you know what, between him and Joe Biden, I had to go Trump, but I don't really want to.
Yeah.
And I can respect that.
Yeah,
You know,
I think that's a lot of the sentiment with when Trump got into office was Trump or Hillary. I'd rather have Trump than Hillary.
Yeah.
You know,
And that's-
for
I
a
mean,
lot of
that's-
people that were kind of
yeah.
like middle of the road, they're like, I just don't want another 4 years of a Clinton
Yeah.
in there, and specifically her. You
Mhm.
know, like she seemed crazy shit.
But yeah, no, I if you're critical of Joe Biden, I hope you're critical of Donald Trump just as much, and vice versa.
Yeah.
If you were critical of Donald Trump, I expect you to be critical of Joe Biden right now.
So if it was a Hillary versus Donald kind of thing, and pretty much a Donald versus Joe kind of thing in the 2020, hypothetically, how do you think the last 2 years would have been handled if we had gone Trump for the last 2 years during this pandemic? Do you think we'd be in a way better place now than we are?
Depends on what you're speaking about, like specifically.
Well, just
If you're
talk
speaking about like social division and where
We've been,
people are,
I think, more-
way more divided.
Than what was going on
Yeah.
during his presidency.
Yeah, way more divided because there's so many more touchy subjects and things to be upset about, and it would just be everything on the other spectrum. Like as much as people are pissed off about wearing, masks now, they would basically have like the upper hand in
The
the.
narratives on all the masking and all that stuff would be completely different because he does advocate for the vaccine and all that stuff, but a lot of his
I'll tell you what.
following.
I'll tell you what. If
doesn't
Donald
necessarily-
Trump, this is my thought. If Donald Trump was still in office, we wouldn't have, what is it, like 70% of the population vaccinated. Every Democrat would be against the vaccine.
Maybe.
Everyone.
Nah, I don't know
I
about.
don't know
I don't know about
Everyone.
that, though, but maybe. I mean,
Everyone. Unless you were terrified
it's
about
hearsay.
COVID, you
Yeah,
know,
it's
and-
hearsay. I don't know.
Yeah, because at the beginning,
Of course, it's all. This is
Yeah.
all hypothetical.
I don't know, but I don't know if that would be the case because people were genuinely scared. But yeah, maybe the narrative would have changed.
But you had
because the fear of
you had Cuomo. I wouldn't take this vaccine. I don't trust it. I don't this
Yeah.
that. You had Biden saying that shit. You had Kamala Harris saying that shit. You had everybody saying that shit when Trump was supporting the vaccine and he was putting out his master plan to like. A lot of people are like
Warp speed?
You're gonna sit there and you're just gonna pencil whip a vaccine.
Yeah.
I'm straight. You know. So I guarantee you'd have the ones that the Republicans that are kind of like, nah, I'm good, man. It's cool. And then you'd have all the my body my choice people. That much more my body my choice. You know, in my opinion. Again, this is just my opinion though.
No, that's kind of
That's
what
a fair. I mean, it could.
Yeah.
You could see that playing out.
I don't think the Democrats would be behind it as much as they are, like saying like, get vaccinated, get. You know.
On that same spectrum, we got a couple minutes. On that same spectrum, the people that are against it all right now, do you think they would have came around, or do you think they would have been still hardcore?
Because they had Trump like kind of pushing the vaccine.
Because you can say one party acts a certain way because of who's in charge and all that stuff, but you can't not say that about the other.
Whether it was Donald Trump or whether it was me personally, I would feel the same way about the vaccine. How I feel about the vaccine, for you to find out.
Yeah, it's easy to say after the fact, right? But we'll see. I don't know.
Well, it's just that's looking statistically at things and like the whole thing like how you're looking at things about your kids. You know, I'd be like, why?
For you.
I'd be like, why? My demographic,
I mean, you're under 50.
All this like no, like grandma, get the vaccine.
Yeah.
I think you should probably get the vaccine. You know, mom, you should probably do it.
250-pound, friend
who has asthma and or
correct.
has a respiratory problem, has had bronchitis like 6 times.
No, I mean, so it's a trip. Like I try and figure out. Like I know a few people who had COVID, and some don't have any issues. They're like, man, I had a kind of like a fever, like my throat was dry, lost sense of taste and whatnot for a few days, but that's been it. Like I lucked out, you know. And other people were just like, man, that was pretty rough.
Yeah.
Like I didn't really dig that, and they like work out and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know.
I
I haven't had it yet. So
and if it was a homie that was like, hey, I'm type A blood type or B blood type, and hey, bro, I heard that they've been having a rough go at it. You might want to look into the vaccine. You might want to look into like doing
get
something
that
to protect yourself.
ivermectin on deck.
Yeah, something. You know, the one thing about the vaccine that bothers me is that the way they painted the vaccine was like every other vaccine, right? Well, every other vaccine isn't like an mRNA vaccine. It's different, and it's new technology. So it's like you can't compare the fact that polio and smallpox have been eradicated based off of this vaccine because it's completely different. This is more of a therapy, and that's how they should have sold it to the public. It's like, this is a therapy. This will help because this is something that the statistics show.
So the misinformation there initially, like, oh, you get it.
This is probably going to get pulled off.
You're stopping the
flag for misinformation.
You're stopping you're stopping the spread. You're not going to be able to pass it. So it was like initially. That's what, and my mom was in, she's in the at-risk category. So I was like, a bunch of her friends were passing away. So I was like, I don't want to put her at risk, so I'll get it. And I'm not the healthiest dude.
Yeah.
At least at the time I was,
No, you're a stud now.
But no, so I was like, I'm gonna get it. But I was like, you know what? I'll stop the spread. I'll be able to go out, and then slowly it's just been, oh well. You can pass it, or you can get it.
Yeah.
You can pass it. And it's like, what?
and leading back to the whole Neil Young thing is like, well, who's holding that misinformation accountable?
Correct.
It's like you guys want to jump on Joe Rogan and shit like that, but what about the people that were like Fauci, like people that it was their job to tell us what the hell's going on, and they're spreading misinformation. Masks, you don't need them. Hey, it turns out you need double masks. Vaccines. I wouldn't trust it. I wouldn't trust it. Now you need a vaccine and be double boosted. You know what I mean? Like, it's like the CDC was coming out with crazy ass shit, and now the WHO and the CDC aren't seeing eye to eye. And it's like, then you hear the stuff that like the WHO's in China's pocket and the CDC's in the Democrats' pocket. So you're like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
So it's like everything at this point is misinformation. So it's just like, do what you feel the most comfortable with.
Correct.
And for people to be sitting there saying like, pointing the finger and take my, sending these ultimatums, you take me off your platform if you're gonna have so and so on and wanting to silence people, sounds like some Canadian communism type stuff. And we'll end it at that. We'll switch up. We'll be back after we set the shutters.
After these messages.
After these messages, we'll be right. Actually, it might be better if you clap.
Right.
I'm trying to see if anybody responded.
Garcetti.
How do you feel about Garcetti as a left-leaning individual?
No comment.
No comment.
Eric Garcetti.
Well, this is going to be a very slow second half if you don't, you're not going to comment on it.
What did you think of the photo op between
The photo
Gavin
op between
Newsom,
Gavin Newsom,
Magic?
Mr. Positivity, and the mayor of San Francisco and the mayor of Los Angeles all
So
cozying
why
up
are you
with no
calling,
mask? Magic Johnson,
you're-
Mr. Positivity?
I assume you're calling Magic Johnson Mr. Positivity.
Because he does nothing but positive shit for his society. This guy's all about positivity.
He is, definitely.
Am I wrong?
No, not at all.
He's never negative.
He's never negative.
He's HIV negative.
From what I hear, have you ever heard this, the conspiracy theory on that?
No.
Was that because in the 80s, early 90s, HIV was running rampant, it was so bad that they needed someone to be like a spokesman for HIV to like be
So
like
they gave it to Magic?
so yeah, they like I guess negotiated with Magic.
With Magic?
I don't know.
That's fucked
I don't
up.
know. I mean, you would think they're not just gonna be like, hey, dude, guess what?
Yep.
Tag your
We-
AIDS.
we-
Like no, like
I mean, he had to stop playing and everything. Larry Bird was crying.
did he stop playing though? I was
No,
like,
he
he played
started
another
he
couple
kept
years.
playing, yeah, but then it was like made everybody uncomfortable. So he was just like, you know what, I'm gonna
Yeah,
stop.
and then his career
Flourished
exploded. Yeah,
as a businessman.
yeah. So it's like the guy owns the Dodgers for Christ's sake. So
Yeah, and a bunch of movie theaters.
yeah, was it a bad deal for him? Like,
Maybe not. No.
and then now it's like, hey, guess what? We can't
Yeah.
find traces of the disease in his blood anymore. And
I
so
mean,
it's like a breakthrough case
I wish
for
that,
HIV.
Yeah, I wish
Gives
that happened to
everybody like the
everybody.
incentive, and like
Yeah.
now, the treatment that they have for HIV is crazy. Like you can have it ordered to your house.
Really?
Yeah, they have like, you never seen those videos or the videos, those
No.
commercials where it's like if you're having like they have treatments that you can
So
just order.
are a lot of people? Can a lot of people like test like that now? Like, because I remember growing up, it was like you got HIV, you are gonna get AIDS and die. Like
That was the narrative,
right?
You know who was behind that narrative? While we're on,
Fauci. Well, I mean,
while we're on the topic, yeah.
so is that no longer a thing? It's like, oh, you can totally live
It all.
the
I'm
life.
I'm
or
no.
do you not know? That's okay to say. I don't know because I don't.
Jake, press down. Now set or start. No, down, and then the set.
Keep talking. I'll figure it out.
The set button.
Huh?
Like
Okay,
the.
okay, figure it out.
Oh,
Um,
shit. Damn it.
no. From what I've heard, and again, you can take my word for whatever you want to take my word
All
for.
right, I'll Google it.
Yeah,
after.
give it a Google.
You Google me.
This was actually, I heard, I think Dr. Drew talking about it, and Dr. Drew worked with Fauci during the whole HIV epidemic, and he was saying that back then there was a lot of people dying of AIDS,
Uh-huh.
like, just like it was crazy how rampant it was running through a specific community, and then they were saying like, if this continues, it'll be the end of society as we know it. So he made again like
They did a gain-of-function
overreaction
research. Found
Right,
the
yeah, so
cure.
they got a couple of beagles, they put them in. No, so it was he like a knee-jerk reaction and an overestimation of what was actually gonna happen.
Potentially happen.
Yeah, and as time kind of went on and they kind of got ahead of it, and then they had more awareness about HIV and AIDS. And again, that's why the conspiracy is that like we need a spokesman, we need somebody that can get the word out there to everybody, because if not, people are going to keep having unprotected sex, keep doing sharing needles, keep doing having all these things that will put you at risk for getting HIV and AIDS. So it was like one of those things that it was like a huge focus, but it's like with a little bit of time and with a little bit of like
And then the
effort.
movie Kids full circle from last episode.
Exactly. Then kids came out and blew it. You know, like
Dude,
I was like,
I'm
I'm
not gonna
never
have
having
sex.
sex.
I'm not gonna have sex. Not
I was
gonna
like,
drink.
No.
Not gonna do drugs or have sex.
Yeah.
Because I'll end up like Casper.
Yeah. No.
Or I
Telly.
will be Casper, giving it to everybody.
It was Telly.
But Casper
Casper ended up with it because
did,
he
and then had sex
smashed
with
the poor, poor defenseless like.
She was out,
Bro,
bro.
that movie is wild.
It
when
was
you
pretty
think about
wild.
it.
Yeah.
It was like rape, statutory rape,
Yeah, it had
pedophilia, all that kind of good stuff in it.
drugs,
Jesus
booze,
Christ.
all the cool stuff.
Yeah. Those New York kids are wild. But yeah.
So
So now, I mean, it's a very treatable. I mean, look. I think Charlie Sheen has HIV or he has AIDS. I think he has.
I thought that was a rumor.
No, he's
Really?
yeah.
I thought like somebody said like, oh, Charlie Sheen has it, but he was like, no, I don't.
No.
So
I got tiger blood,
yeah,
baby.
yeah. But I don't really look too
No,
much.
give it a goog.
Yeah.
And I got you a mic for a reason, not so it could be 6 feet next to you. I don't want to hear any complaints about I can't hear Jacob.
This mic right here.
That's the one. That's gonna sound.
That's what you did on purpose. On November 17, 2015, Sheen publicly revealed that he is HIV positive,
What?
having been diagnosed
Wait,
4
what
years
year was that?
previously.
Sorry.
2015.
2015.
He said he was
Yeah.
diagnosed in 2011.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And he was smashing probably for
So,
those 4 years.
Bareback 4 years.
It said his disclosure resulted in a vast increase of online search queries for HIV prevention and testing, and now they call that the Charlie Sheen effect.
Hell yeah.
It's
There's
pretty
any,
badass.
there's any kind
It's
of
like,
effect.
holy shit, I slept with that dude.
Can you imagine how many chicks were
Yeah.
freaking out?
It
Like,
what sparked it.
Oh my God. It's like ground zero right there. That's
Sparked interest.
That's
right?
patient
It
one.
sparked Google search after it. So that's all the women.
Probably.
Single-handedly.
Yeah, had to be.
Like,
Had to
holy
be.
Shit.
probably.
And then
I didn't even think about it
6
that way.
degrees of Charlie Sheen's probably
yeah,
terrible.
Like Malibu was just
Oh
going
my
nuts.
God.
Yeah.
Malibu and Hollywood were just
Damn.
like, what? When did I sleep with him?
Yeah. Ashton Kutcher was probably even tripping out. Like, man, I sat in those chairs. I was on that set. They didn't tell me shit.
Well, that's kind of the mystique back then, right? Like everybody was afraid to play with magic because it was like, oh dang, I might be able to get it
Sweat,
from him.
yeah.
Yeah, they didn't know, and they were like, yo, stay at home. Like we don't want you to play because we don't know. And I remember when he got that cut. Remember that?
Yeah.
It was like a game. He had a cut, and like everybody was just like, oh man. So they put a Band-Aid on him and whatnot. And it was just like awkward.
Bandage. You better bandage them all up.
So, but then that's kind of how it was started. Now it's like a 50-50 chance if I smash.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
No,
Not
it's-
even guaranteed.
It's still 0. Anyways, this
Next
Fri-
question.
no, this Friday I'm going to your boy's show, Andrew Schultz.
Oh,
On
Schultze.
Friday. He's playing over.
Schultze.
He's coming over to Brea.
He's super legit. Anybody who likes kind of like conscious comedy and like is into an even keeled opinion on what's going on in society. The Flagrant podcast or Flagrant 2. It's a podcast I love to watch with Andrew Schultz and Akash Singh, I believe his name is. Two really good comedians from New York. But what was your question about him? Or what I think it was.
I was letting out, I was going.
Where is it?
It's over
Brea?
in Brea.
The
Oh.
Brea Improv or?
I don't know. My buddy actually got tickets and he said he had an extra one, so
I'd assume the Brea Improv, but
Yeah,
yeah,
that's what it was.
he's a really good comedian. He does great. He dropped, so when Chappelle dropped his what was it, like 8 minutes and something?
47.
Oh, yeah.
47, yeah,
The
right.
George Floyd thing.
The George Floyd thing. He dropped his crowd work. He did like 30 minutes of crowd work on YouTube, and everybody was like, that was kind of like a brilliant move. Like he's known for like taking all his comedy and everything and getting away from like mainstream like companies owning his rights to like doing everything through like YouTube and like kind of doing everything like underground and him being able to like reap the benefits of all his sales and stuff and all his work. So he's kind of like revamped the game where it's like, yeah, you don't need all these, you don't need Sony, you don't need Netflix, you don't need all this stuff. Then he just so happened to sign a deal with Netflix that like shortly after that for Andrew Schultz Saves America. And that was during the pandemic. It was legit because it's basically doing what we do right here, like talking out, like, but he was doing it all with like puns. So it was like a monologue. Brilliant. It's like if you guys have Netflix and you guys want to check it out, it's super dope, good watch. Where he's just like unbiased, but just like puns on top of puns on top of puns, and like it's just
you can't even keep up with it.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
It's almost like it's like listening to a Eminem album and trying to catch every little like pun or every little like you know like jab that he throws in, but just comedy, and it's just hilarious. Like some of the stuff he was like where he talks about like the Ghislaine Maxwell stuff, like what was coming out, all the people that were associated with them and everything, and like Harvey Weinstein, COVID, like everything. It's like it was something that was much needed at the time because everything was just kind of so like divisive and up in the air, where it was just kind of like fresh to hear somebody that had like a balanced thought about it all, you know. So
and the Dave Chappelle special was 8:46.
8:46,
so
yeah,
correction.
yeah, and
8:10.
8:10.
It's like
give or take a few minutes for the knee on the neck. Yeah, that, and for those who don't know, the 8:46 was how long Chauvin had his knee on George Floyd, leading to his death.
Speaking of Dave Chappelle, what did you think of his final episode, the closer?
Now we're getting into
Now we're on Netflix right now, and
I think my mic just.
cut cut it.
Damn,
That
bro.
might be the perfect time.
What are
You
you
give him the
doing?
signal? I'm gonna stop him.
Go ahead.
You give him the signal, go, bro. Get me out of here.